BITA Business. My name is John FitzGerald, and on behalf of Lear Media TV and the British and Irish Trading Alliance, welcome to the show. World Cleanup Day unites and mobilizes over 300 million volunteers in 191 countries all over the world to tackle the global waste problem and build up the new and sustainable planet. With World Cleanup Day coming up next month on September 17th, and with the BITA Be Plastic Aware campaign already up and running, this is a great time to talk about plastic pollution, especially in the construction sector, what can be done to address it, and how we can each do our own little bit in our corner of the world to clean up the environment. Our guests today are Brendon Kenny, Richard Morrissey, and Paul Edmonds. Brendon is a co-founder of Changing Streams, a director of Ellenstone Consulting, chair of BITA in the Isle of Man, and a passionate advocate for the reduction of plastic use across the construction sector. Paul is head of operations at house builder Goscombe Homes, whose sole aim as a social business is to create homes that people can access, afford, and that are sustainable in the long term. Richard is head of corporate sales at Moneycorp in Ireland, a BITA Cork board member, is passionate about tackling plastic pollution and how we as a society can better be guardians of the nature around us. So welcome to the show, guys. Let me start with you, Brendon, then go to Paul and on to Richard. World Cleanup Day is a landmark event, Brendon, coming up soon, as I said, and a great opportunity for us all to get involved. What is the state of the nation when it comes to plastic pollution, especially in the construction sector? Where are we winning? Where are we losing? And where can we do better?
So, okay, you're talking about a very complex question. Where can we do better? Let's start with there. Where we can do better is to actually use the material we actually produce. That is the biggest change we can make in society. And that could be anything from your food in your cupboard to the materials on your construction site. Just use what we actually have, use the resource we have. And what we can actually do as individuals, and we don't need to focus just on the day, right? The day is to bring the world together. I get that. But think about it every day. Think about when you're walking down the street, you see that plastic bottle, right? And it's on the street and you want to just pick it up, put it in the bin. You know, move the material to where it needs to be. That's the key for everything. Move resource to where it needs to be. Now, I saw something absolutely fantastic in France over the summer, where there was a machine outside a supermarket where you take your plastic bottles, you put it in there, it grinds it down within the store, and it gives you a voucher for money off your food. Absolutely fantastic. You're making it simple for people to make the right decision. And that's what we have to focus on. We have to focus on how we make things achievable and simple for people to make the right decisions. That will be my focus, not just for World Cleanup Day, but for every day for our life.
And Paul, you're sitting in a very well-respected business, Goscombe Homes. From your perspective, where do you think we're winning in the construction industry in relation to plastic pollution, and where can we do better?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is not necessarily on behalf of Goscombe Homes. This is on behalf of us as a human being sitting on the planet, I guess. We're still scratching the surface. I mean, I think we all know that this is an enormous problem that's still getting worse. It's not plateaued yet. It's still getting worse. So I think, you know, kind of just going on the question you asked Brendon there, which is, you know, what can we do better? Well, ideally, we don't drop litter. We don't drop plastic. You know, we make things out of different materials. When I lived in America a few years back in Indianapolis, and I was staggered by how clean it was. And I was talking to the mayor and I was asking how, you know, what kind of infrastructure do you have to make sure this city looks so clean all of the time? And he said, we just don't drop the litter in the first place. And I just thought, well, it sounds so obvious, isn't it? But I think so. I think the big change is leadership. People in positions of authority have to be the people that start this process, start the language, be repetitive, to filter down through organizations, through obviously being part of BITA, through a whole community of companies as well. So this is a leadership challenge. If we get the leadership engaged and massively engaged, then things will happen, money will flow, actions will take place, and then we'll start reversing the trend of back to a plateau and then start bringing it the other way. But it's a leadership challenge.
So we're getting into things like mindset, we're getting into things like civic pride and education, which are
I think education, John, I think is we can talk about education from the bottom up, which is schools, colleges, getting people out into the community, doing what we're doing on September 17th, which is fantastic. But I think the education has also got to come down. And unless the top table are engaged with this, everybody beneath them, it dilutes, sadly. So it's the education at the top where, exactly as Brendon was saying, how do we make it a positive thing to do this rather than we're trying to twist your arm to do it? We're trying to build homes that are affordable and spend all the money we make in our business into the local community. That means the local authorities go, well, that's great. Now we want you to be here, rather than pushing developers out. Same with trying to solve this particular problem. If we can get people to want to do this, and that starts at the top in every organization, every community, then you've got a better chance of actually chipping away at it and make a difference.
Richie, what are your thoughts on this? And the original question of the state of the nation when it comes to plastic pollution and how we can do better to start.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like Paul's comments there, like that you're coming from the top and you're coming, and also probably from the consumer. But I kind of go back to 12 months ago or 18 months ago when we started on this journey. When we had our friend from New Zealand that came on and spoke about the problem being up the river, and that's a terminology that has resonated with me ever since, right? And the reason I use it here this morning is that I had a call with a potential new client yesterday that is in the business of manufacturing straws and plastic spoons for the yogurt industry, and has clients all over Europe. And you could imagine a couple of years ago, with regulation that came in, their business was going to be turned upside down because straws was one product that, if you see with the plastic pollution, straws are everywhere. And I think there's legislation, I know in Ireland and probably in the UK, outlawing straws at this stage. But this company was facing a road to Damascus moment like that. If they didn't innovate, or if they didn't change, their business model was gone. And they took that challenge on, they told me. And today they manufacture spoons for yogurt, but they're wooden spoons, right? And they're using products that aren't plastic, but they're consumer friendly, and all that. So I was fascinated by how their business was under pressure, but they knew the right thing had to be done, and they did that. So to me, that's an example of what Paul is saying, like from leadership, from directors, from companies, that they actually do the change that makes it happen. It goes back to what I talk about, the problem being up the river. Like, by what they're doing, that plastic straws and things aren't going into the river, so then we don't have to pick them up where we are today. And the other example I'll give is, and it's interesting, I go to my local market tomorrow, and I've probably brought this up a couple of times, and we've got a lovely salad guy there. He's got 20 different salads, and he'll put them into a plastic container tomorrow, and we'll buy them and we'll bring them back, and I'll put them in the bin on Monday morning, and it's more plastic, right? And like, as consumers, right, we should be going to him every Saturday morning with our containers, wooden containers or whatever, recyclable ones, and he should be filling it up rather than him giving us plastic every week. So how do we change him, right? And I think that's got to be consumer driven, because it's up to me to go there tomorrow morning and say, I don't want the plastic container from you. I want you to fill my container. And if enough consumers do that, it will change the mindset. So
I think that's a great example, Richard, of taking action as a single person in a very small way to make a little bit of a difference. And if enough people are doing that, you can actually start to.
And I think that's why when I often speak to John, I like to use real examples, because real examples is where people listening to this show later can actually resonates with them. And I think they're two good examples now of what I've seen probably this week, like where can we make a change?
Brendon, I know this will probably resonate with you because I know your work in changing streams. You do partner with a lot of businesses to help them on this journey as they look at their sustainability credentials, as they examine their supply chains from a sustainability perspective and challenge their own business models, as Richard just mentioned. Can you give us some insights into what that work is doing and the positive outputs from some of the work you're doing?
Well, do you know what? One of the most positive outputs from the work we're doing came on a LinkedIn post, which I didn't even know had happened, which was fantastic, right? And it's the BITA event in London, the Londoners, which is the prestige event for anyone who's in BITA to attend. And one of the sustainability award nominations is a company called Grafenstone, and Grafenstone is a paint. And what it does, it's completely plastic free, and most people don't even know how much paint is in. How much plastic is in paint. And also, most people don't even know that in the oceans, the nanoplastics, the ones which have just are getting into the food chain, comes from paint. 58%, I think, could be 48, could be 50, whatever the figure is. It's big. Grafenstone don't use any plastic in their paint, but what they also do is they use nanotechnology. Is they actually take CO2 out of the air when the paint is on the wall. So you basically you've got a plastic-free solution, which is also solving another problem. It's about the same cost as a normal quality paint supplier. That gives me massive hope, is that organizations have innovated and seen the problem and thought that this is a commercial opportunity. And the other thing, John, which I will say, and this is a plug for myself, and I apologize, gentlemen, we're launching ESG consultants at the BITA lunch on the 23rd of September in Liverpool, Anfield. And what we've observed and what the team has observed is the fact that ESG is becoming a massive thing for corporates, because capital has decided we have to change. But small businesses have got no clue about what they need to do to actually think about how they change within their organization to adapt to the new world which is coming. And it's a massive opportunity, not just for business, but for any product, any small product, any innovative product. We as BITA have this opportunity to actually share our knowledge and share our connections to make change. And we don't even know the impact we have. I can talk about, with Paul, with Richard, and with you, John, things which have happened just by this connection, just by what we've done, how things have changed. And if you imagine the power of the connectivity of what we've created with BITA, and you imagine the opportunity to drive innovation and drive change, it's phenomenal. And I tell you, I'll make no bones about it, I will ride on the back of BITA with my new business. Why? Because people who know people want to help people. I want to make change. Why wouldn't I work with people who want to make change? BITA is unbelievably good.
Okay, well, I want to come back to Richard, because in the spirit of World Cleanup Day, and I know, Richard, you've been very, very active in your local community with not only beach cleanups, but also local cleanups over the last several years. Do you think the message is getting out there to businesses around and the general public around the need to clean up the environment?
I do, John. I mean, like, not even BITA. Like, I mean, I've seen it probably over the last number of years. Like, I mean, there's more and more organizations and more people are doing beach cleanups. But it goes back to Paul's comment earlier. It shouldn't be happening on day one. Like, I mean, the reality of it is, we're starting a problem that's been created already. So look, it happens. And yet again, this year, I'm going to be in Turkey again this year for Beach Cleanup Day. So my beach cleanup will be a Turkish beach again. So it's we're making sure that BITA today is still BITA International. So I'm having a beach, and my Turkish friends will be involved in it again, and I'll be trying to explain to them what BITA is and why we're doing this and all that. And my understanding is actually the beaches that we use in Turkey actually need a bit of cleaning up at the moment, because there was legislation passed in by the Turks this year where they bulldozed all the beach bars, and they're now after opening new ones that are all regulated by the local, we call it the Belediyesi, which is the local council. And it's nearly like McDonald's or Starbucks. Every beach bar has to look the same furniture, nearly same menu. But my understanding is it's left a lot of the beaches kind of that there's gaps between each beach bar that needs to be cleaned up. So look, it'll be interesting. We'll do our bit in Turkey on the beach cleanup day later in September.
BITA goes international once again. Brilliant stuff, Richie. So let me ask you all a question. I'll start with Paul on this one. Paul, if you were in government today and you had the power to make one single change to clean up the environment, what would that change be?
My heart bleeds for you, Richard, by the way. You know, I'm going to be on Brighton Beach, not Turkey. But, one change. I'll answer that question by explaining something that probably happened to me when I joined the BITA Global Forum, which is lots of companies, lots of countries coming together on a mission for one cause, which was, you know, trying to reduce or raise awareness for plastic in industry. Is that I didn't know what I didn't know. I joined that group thinking that I knew, and then I found out that I knew nothing. And there was a moment when somebody said, did you know, may have been the chap from New Zealand, did you know that it takes 500 years for a bottle to disappear in an ocean? And my mind was absolutely blown, and I was in, you know, I was hooked, and we're still doing it. And, you know, I would, if I was in government, I'd make it compulsory. The thing about when you're asking leadership to take the initiative, we're typically, as much as I still believe that's true, it's got to happen at the top table, we tend to lag behind what's been asked for. So we're asked to do this, we're asked to whatever it is in our communities, and eventually we come to the table 10 years later. If the government was in a position to say, right, no more plastic bottles by 2027 or whatever it is, come in with some really uncomfortable measures, we would get there sooner. Our leadership could get there quicker than it is, but I think it's a combination of leadership standing up and taking a role in this, and that means educating yourselves, which is something that's happened to me. I should have educated myself more, but I didn't. But I think the government coming in and saying, right, from now on, it's going to be this. Same way in housing, they're now saying that if you're doing a big development, 30% of those houses need to be affordable or social houses. Well, that wasn't the case 20 years ago. And even now, even though they said 30%, there are compromises and it ends up being 10%. We need to have somebody saying, this is a line in the sand, it's no more. And then I think we can start bringing it back. I was down on Brighton Beach a couple of weeks ago doing another beach clean with another organization. And there were dolphins, a stone's throw, not that you'd want to throw a stone, but a stone's throw from the beach. And everybody was like in awe, because that's not been the case for many years. So there is progress. There are signs that things are improving, but we need to be on our front foot, definitely.
Okay, Richie, what would your change be if you were in power and had the ability to make a change to clean up the environment?
Packaging, I would use that terminology. What really frustrates me is the amount of packaging that is put around product. And I know it's marketing, and marketing is so important, but I do think that some products are overpackaged. Like, I mean, I've started again, everything has to come from the individual. Like, I've started, when I buy stuff now, somebody offers me a plastic bag, I'd say, no, I don't want it. I have my bag with me and I put the stuff into it. Like, I mean, the reality, and I really think, you talk about government, but you've got to bring the packaging companies into this as well, right? And I think if you can reduce the amount of packaging, right? Now it doesn't solve the problem, right? But it does reduce the amount of paper, plastic, whatever product that's used for packaging that's out there. So, and again, that's companies, that's government, that's consumers, that's everybody coming together. So I do think it's not just government that does this, it's got to be everybody.
Okay, good suggestion. Brendon, your thoughts on this one?
I'm absolutely with Paul. The rules that need to be set at the top level. And let's look at what they've done with regards to fossil fuels and cars. They have said you cannot sell a car by X date if it's petrol or diesel. Fine. What's happened? All the car companies have absolutely massively innovated to produce alternatives. We have to say no, and no from the top level. We don't want plastic. Consumers don't want plastic. And when you say no, then all the fledgling businesses which have got the alternative packaging, which are not sustainable or not commercially viable at the moment, because plastic is cheap, it's great, it's versatile, right? But it's an uneven playing field. It's not convenient for the 600 years, Paul, which you brought up, right? It's not. It's for our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, everyone. We have not just a responsibility, we have a duty. We have to say no. This is 1939 for me. This is 1939. There's a line in the sand. You say no. We are not going to do this anymore. That's what I would say.
All right, and there you go with your convenience is no longer that convenient, Brendon.
Absolutely.
That is a phrase I attribute to you, and it is a good one. All right, gentlemen, I'm conscious of time. So I know what Richie is doing for World Cleanup Day. He will be on a beach in Turkey doing his little bit to fly the BITA flag and clean up the environment there. So brilliant stuff. Brendon, what are your plans for World Cleanup Day?
I will be out round West Kirby Lake, which is my local lake, walking the walk and cleaning that up myself with a number of people. What we've got on the Wirral is a fantastic organisation called the Wirral Wombles, and the Wirral Wombles are out every weekend, and this is children cleaning the environment. On the Isle of Man, we've got beach buddies. Bill Dale, we're communicating. We've got a huge event going on over there, where about 20% of the population will be cleaning not just the beaches, but inland. It's because the beaches is one part. Inland is it's the streams coming in, right? Hence changing streams of what we're trying to do. We're trying to start it from the top. Thank you, Paul, for highlighting the whole challenge we're trying to create. But yes, we will do that. But I've got a great piece of news, which I won't name names, but there's a major football club, probably the best in the world, will be taking part next year in World Cleanup Day.
Well, Crystal Palace.
Manchester United.
We could debate this for quite a while, I'm guessing. And I will second what you said about the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man, I must say, having visited a couple of months ago, it has probably the cleanest harbour I think I've ever seen in any city I have visited around the world. And it's a credit to Bill Dale, the Beach Buddies, and the civic pride of the whole population of the Isle of Man. It is fabulous. It reminds me a little bit of what Paul said around Indianapolis, people taking an interest in the local environment and cleaning up after themselves. Paul, last word to you. Your plans for World Cleanup Day?
Well, two things. One is that I'll be on the beach. I live near the beach, so I think one of the things that we all had in common when we started the kind of global forum, we're talking to businesses and individuals who all live near a coastline. That's where business is, typically on the coastline, and we're in a small country and we are surrounded by water. So you're not very far away from water, and I think definitely encouraging people to go down on the beach. I will be there with all my kind of trying to filter engagement through our supply chain, so everybody's involved. So we're building the education piece. But I would say my request would be something that came out from, I think, the guy that Richard was referring to, that we spoke to us several years ago, and it was along the lines of, if you see it, pick it up. And that has transformed my everyday life, that I now can't walk past a piece of plastic. without picking it up. Sometimes it's massively inconvenient because I'm like, where do I put it all? But it just shows you the length of the problem. So if I could ask everybody, it's not just about September the 17th. It's all the 364 other days. If you see it, pick it up.
Yeah,
very good.
Paul, sorry, John. I will absolutely confirm exactly that. And don't be embarrassed about walking around with a piece of plastic in your hand, when you're finding a place to put it. In fact, it should be a pride thing. We should make it. We should change the tide on being proud about picking stuff up.
Well, your point is very good, Brendon, in the sense that if you're seen doing it or I've seen doing it, somebody walking past us will say, well, okay, that's the right thing to do. So I think if you're seen to be a leader and an innovator that does things like that, well, then hopefully the sheep will follow that.
Exactly.
Big sheep.
All right, guys, I think that's a good place for us to finish. Thank you all for joining me today. And the message is very, very simple, ladies and gentlemen. If you see it, pick it up, bin it, and recycle. Do your own little bit to clean up your corner of the world. Show a little bit of civic pride. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John FitzGerald. This has been A Bit of Business. Thank you all for watching.